Okay. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to
Thanks
have you
for having
here.
me.
So, you got a book out called Crypto Decrypted, and you and James, how do you pronounce his last name?
Diorio.
Diorio. Okay. So, you guys are the co authors of that book?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And you both work at a company called Tradecraft Capital. Is that correct?
Yep. That's right. It's a digital asset management firm.
By the title of the book, I'm guessing that this is kind of an explanation of what it's all about, what crypto is all about.
Yeah, I think for the most part, a lot of books out there have really gone to the what and the how of Bitcoin or crypto and blockchain. We really wanted to go about writing the why. Why is this important? Why is solving a top 10 computer science problem called the Byzantine generals problem? Why does that matter to the everyday person? And so in the book, we go about explaining why that's important.
I'm curious about the whole process, though, because there's questions that I don't quite understand. Number one, what is the value of crypto based on?
Yes. Well, crypto is a very wide term. For the most part, the first application of the blockchain technology was Bitcoin, and it went about to use the blockchain as a use case for sound money or digital money. One thing in the real world, if you have a $20 bill, it's a bearer instrument. I hand you a $20 bill. Now you have it. I don't have it anymore. Uh, Nobody records that. Nobody, watches us do that. Now you have the $20 bill. I don't have it anymore. We weren't really ever able to replicate that in the digital world. We always needed to be able to use a credit card or something like that. And all of those transactions, in fact, most of our economic transactions these days require a trusted third party, that is a bank, to settle the transactions. And so if you go to a grocery store or you go anywhere, it's effectively your credit card that is settling a bank account, and it's requiring a trusted third party to do that. What's revolutionary about Bitcoin and about the blockchain technology is that it allows us to replicate that peer-to-peer transaction that happens in the real world. It allows us to do that digitally, and so that's revolutionary. And that's really powerful, and we haven't been able to do that before. And so new applications are now possible because we can do that peer-to-peer transaction without a trusted third party.
So we're eliminating the bank and the Federal Reserve.
We aren't eliminating it. It's just the point that we're able to replicate a transaction digitally that we couldn't do before. Bitcoin is very interesting because it provides the six really meaningful characteristics of sound money. Uh, that is that it's portable, it's divisible, it's durable, it's acceptable by very many places, uh, and it's scarce, or it has scarcity. One thing that fiat currency does not really have these days is the scarcity factor. Uh, US dollars or any of the fiat currencies don't have scarcity anymore. And so with Bitcoin, we now have another currency, a digital currency that allows us to transact anywhere in the world, globally, across barriers, and we're able to do that. And it also brings back the scarcity back to money. And so that's what makes Bitcoin very interesting.
So when you say scarcity, you mean there's a finite number of Bitcoins?
That's right. There'll never be any more than 21 million Bitcoin, and that's by design. Uh, every 10 minutes, new Bitcoin get minted. Those new Bitcoin come into the world through Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin miners are people or soft servers that are, their whole job is to enforce and create the Bitcoin network, this decentralized distributed network. And for that, they get paid in Bitcoin. And so every 10 minutes, new Bitcoin get minted. And one thing that's interesting about Bitcoin is that that number changes every 4 years. The supply of Bitcoin gets halved every 4 years. And so that creates a logarithmic, a function that brings a lot more Bitcoin into the world in the beginning and then starts to get less and less and less over time. And so I think the last few little Bitcoin get minted in something like 2140.
Okay, well, Bitcoin has been valued against the dollar at anything from practically zero up to $60,000 for one Bitcoin, and now it's around 20 something. I think that scares people, that if they were only able to barter and trade and buy with Bitcoin, that they had one Bitcoin and yesterday it was worth $60,000 and today it's worth 20.
Well, Bitcoin is a new technology. It's only been around, 10 years or so, and all new technologies follow this S curve. It's called the technology or adoption curve, the S curve, and that's any technologies happen that way, where there are early adopters, and then you kind of start to get more and more people. You start to get to a point where there's a tipping point, and then we get more mainstream adoption, and then it starts to get more mature. So we found that with the internet, in, let's say, the early 90s, some people had email accounts through something like AOL or something like that. And then about 1997 or 98, there were, let's say, 17% or so of the number of US people who had email accounts. That was kind of the tipping point in the late 90s. And then really we got wide adoption of the internet, after the late 90s and 2000s. And that's when we saw, mainstream adoption of the internet. We started to see web pages and a lot more search engines. And so Bitcoin is similar in that it's a technology. And so we're in that early phase of it. And so there can be a lot of volatility just because there's less liquidity or less people using it. Now, as more and more people use it, and over time, as it becomes a more mature technology, and as there's deeper liquidity, meaning more and more market cap, or the total value of all Bitcoin out there becomes in the trillions, that volatility will dampen. And we've even seen that, over the last few years. And so it is scary. It is in the early days, but we're getting market pricing, at any time around the world, and so there's volatility with that.
Okay, are governments afraid of this? Government has seemed to be less than happy to embrace cryptocurrency, particularly ours.
It's which governments, right? So developing countries or countries that don't have standard financial services. There's more than 1.5 billion people that don't even have a checking account. They're not able to access basic financial services of having an account or being able to transport money around or be able to pay for things through an account. And so those people or those countries are very interested in Bitcoin. The more developed countries where we already have that capability through, credit cards and checking accounts, are less interested, and probably the least interested is the company or the country who has hegemony or total power as the world's reserve currency, and that would be the United States. And so it seems that the United States is probably less interested. I think they see it, potentially as having an impact to the world's reserve currency, or the U.S. dollar, having such control. And so it depends on which country, but we'll see over time the benefits, I think, of adopting technology. We've always found in America that it's really important to embrace technological innovation. The internet, a majority, I think it was maybe Pantera Capital that came out with, 47 of the top 50 companies during the internet age, during the information age, were in the US, where we're seeing a much different case with the Age of Autonomy or the blockchain revolution. We're seeing maybe 3 companies of the top 50 in the US. And so I think we're going to need to all question how important it is to be the leaders of technological innovation so that we can all benefit from the economic benefit of being leaders within that technological innovation. So we'll see how it plays out.
Is there any truth to the statement that Bitcoin enables criminals to launder money, to hide money from the government, from taxation?
No, that's really a myth. I think that's something that's been pushed by, mainstream media for a long time. It's a myth that we tackle in the book. Yes, it's possible, and yes, a lot of times I think it was even the internet. We heard that around those were arguments for the internet in the early days, that it was criminals and gamblers and pornographers that were adopting the internet initially. And so we hear that myth or that claim many times when new technologies come here, but we do address that myth in the book. I think if you really look at it, Bitcoin actually helps us find criminal intent and criminal activity. We were able to track the Mt. Gox or the Silk Road, or I think a couple years ago we had malware where it took out a natural gas facility or something, and we were able to track and get back half of the ransom just because Bitcoin, it's a public ledger. It's distributed. You can see all of the transactions that go around, and so in fact, Bitcoin and other currencies allow you to watch that or see that. It's actually transparent. So I really think that's more of a myth.
Okay. We've got just about a minute left, and I want to hit one of the talking points on here. It says 8 red flags for crypto investors. Don't give me all 8. We want people to buy the book. Just give me one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what you're pointing to, but I think in general the book is really important because we lay out a primer for what's very important in learning about blockchain technology and crypto. We address many of the myths, and then we go about and explaining why the technological revolutions drive long wave economic cycles, and why it's really important for every person to understand and adopt and understand crypto and blockchain technology. And we address that all in the book.
All right, great. Well, Jake, we got to wind this down. Thank you so much for coming on. My guest is Jake Ryan. The book is called Crypto Decrypted. Is the book out now?
Yeah, it just came out. May 23rd was the release date, so it's now in any of your favorite booksellers.
Okay, last question. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Sure. If you want to learn anything more, you can go to readcryptodecrypted.com or ageofautonomy.com.
Okay, super. Well, thanks again for coming on this show, and best of luck with the book launch.
Great. Thanks so much.